Good Monday. I'm Chris Vogt. This is Monday Morning Jolt. Let's get started. Sharona.
Good morning. Today with us here is DeShawn Moore. She's a very talented person and one of the few people who are working even harder than I am. So, and then we get along so good on many, many ends. I'm even thinking about adapting her as my sister.
Oh.
So we are that close. We are still like, we have a brother-sister relationship, but officially maybe. So, Sean, tell us, like, I know you do a lot of things. Like, tell us, like, what do you do? I mean, what's your main focus?
Well, my main focus, I love journalism.
Mhm.
I've always loved writing. I've
Mhm.
always loved telling people stories.
Mhm.
I found out in the journalism world or news broadcasts that there's always a backstory behind every story, whether it's good or bad.
Mhm.
And sometimes when you get the bad stories, there's a lesson to be learned.
Mhm.
Number two, when I moved here to Fort Wayne, I found that there were so many talented, educated people. And when I say educated, there are some that may not have ever stepped into a college, but they're so talented, they can do so much. But here's all this undiscovered talent, this positive
That's
energy.
right.
And so what I wanted to do is showcase this talent through my skill of writing. I've always wanted to have my own magazine, so I decided to publish my own magazine entitled More Gospel Magazine, which is a faith-based magazine with mainstream appeal.
Mhm.
That was brief and to the point.
Yeah, great.
Did it start like this? I just had a question, because I thought I saw it more as a print, as a tabloid. Was it always like this?
Well, when I first started, I was sitting on the bed with my husband. We were watching television, and I've always wanted to write. So one day we were watching this good movie, and I'm like, honey, I love you so much. I know you love movies, but I have this vision. I have to do this. So at the time, our computer was right by our bed. So I just kind of scooted over and just start, creating something, Chris, with much prayer and much thought. Here's this front cover that I did, my first front cover. It was kind of bootleg, Chris, but it was, but that's okay, but that's okay. And so from there, I always pray about what I do. But when you have a dream and a vision, you just have to start somewhere. So yes, it was kind of a small.
It's a beautiful magazine. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of the few magazines that I have actually read.
Ah,
Yeah.
well, that's a good endorsement. Because Mr. ADD boy doesn't read. So, this is Monday Morning Jolt. So what we want to know is why are Mondays good if that's your start of your work week, and how do you kick off the start of your work week?
That's a very good question. As a pastor's wife, after Sunday, that's
a busy day.
That's a busy day, Chris. But you know what? I always think of all the wonderful things that God has done and the wonderful people that God has put in my life. And that keeps me motivated. It really does. Sometimes we don't count our blessings, Chris. And sometimes we have gifts and again, things that God wants us to do or we want to do. And sometimes we get discouraged, but I'm motivated by the things that God has done for me. The wonderful people like you and Sharona and Skippy.
That's behind the camera.
Behind the scenes.
and so that's how I'm motivated, honey. I just continue to stay focused on a vision, even though sometimes it gets hard, Chris, and I always don't make the mark, but I stay focused, and I'm grateful for those that God's put in my life.
I think that's a great point that you make about dwelling on the positive. I think we all have a tendency to dwell on the negative. I think in fact, I know there's studies that show that we have a tendency to dwell on the negative. So that's a great reminder, I think, to really look at the things in your life that have brought you joy.
So, what kind of business advice can you give the other businesses? Because you have done a business, you have seen many business owners, and you have interviewed them and like hang around with them. So what kind of one business advice can you give other people?
Sure. I would say plan. All of us have a dream, all of us have goals, and we want to do so many things. But I think where maybe I could have done better in my business is planning. I'm the type of person, if I see something, I go at it. Let's just go at it. And you can do that sometimes, but not all the the time.
Mhm.
It's better to always have a plan and always have a plan B. Number two, never talk to anyone vulnerable. Let me explain that. I've had a lot of people to come in my life and say, I want to mentor you, and I want to tell you this, and I want to tell you that. And I'll never forget one time I went into a meeting and I wasn't feeling very well.
Mhm.
So when you're not feeling good and you're not feeling maybe the best about yourself,
Right.
people, you're almost like a sponge. They can tell you you're beautiful and you'll feel beautiful. They'll tell you you're ugly and you feel ugly. Well, sometimes people may say, well, you should have never done that. You didn't do this right and you didn't do that. And sometimes if you're not a strong person and you don't have your vision in front of you, you're not reminded of this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
People can sway you a different way,
Mhm.
even though you may not have a perfect business.
Mhm.
So what my biggest, I think my advice to anyone is to always remember who you are. Remember your plan. No matter who tells you you can and you can't, remember who you are, because that's what's going to keep you going.
Mhm.
That's what's going to keep you moving.
It's really following your own instincts, because you know.
But it's interesting what she was saying. Never
Mhm.
talk to somebody when you are vulnerable, because
Right.
then those thoughts, those things affect
Seep
you,
in,
even if you
sure.
are a stronger person.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Now, do you have a philosophy or adage by which you live your life and operate your business?
Yes, I do. And again, I have to be reminded by it every day.
Mhm.
One of my favorite scriptures is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That doesn't mean you can do everything. That means that you can do the things that you've been called to do. So what I say is that, you know what? God gave me this magazine. And the reason why I have to give credit to God, because I know it wasn't me, Chris, because I would never do this. I was born shy. I wasn't the smartest in the family. So many obstacles were against me, but yet I'm doing this. So I know it's not me. It is not me.
And
Maybe
you
you
are in
just
front- and you are in front of the camera doing a wonderful
Talking.
Maybe you just didn't know you had it in you.
Maybe so. So that's the philosophy I live by.
And if you could select one superpower, any superpower, whether it's flight and reading people's minds, whatever that is, what would you choose to do?
The ability to empower people and to remind them of that. I just see a lot of times there's so many wonderful people, Chris, and I keep saying wonderful people, and then sometimes they have low self-esteem, so they don't
Oh, yeah.
do it. Or they feel like, well, I come from this background, or I come from this side of town, so I'm not going to do it. So I would, that's one superpower I would love to have, is just to always to be able to empower people. That's what I would love.
Yeah. But there really aren't any mysteries other than hard work. You know?
Right.
And we all carry that baggage around with us, thinking we can't do this and we can't do that. That's great. I think that's wonderful. And then tell us something that even your closest friends or your husband doesn't know about.
No, he knows everything about it.
Yeah, well, no, my husband doesn't know anything about me. That would surprise.
That was surprise. That I can eat chocolate all day.
Now will that surprise people? Have you demonstrated that?
I've demonstrated it sometimes. But on a serious note, something that no one knows about me, that sometimes I have this little cave that I'll crawl into.
Mhm.
And I have to remind myself, get out the cave, DeShawn, every morning, do what you need to do.
Mhm.
So, people say, why are you always happy? I'm not always happy.
Mhm.
Why are you always moving? I'm not always moving, but by the grace of God, He keeps me moving. So I have to get out of that cave, Chris, every day and say, it's time, I have to do this. Not for me, but because someone else is watching me. Maybe a young person needs to be encouraged or something.
So you go in there actually to charge your batteries and then you force
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, we would like to thank DeShawn for coming and joining us today.
Yes.
And we would like to thank you, the audience, for tuning in. This is Monday Morning Jolt. Use it.